What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. We're going to have a fun show for you today. Of course, I'm Mike Spider Slayer from Comic Book Corner 2.0. And then we have Brant Fowler from Only Good Comics. And then we have Kat Comic Uno, who currently is eating nachos. So just letting you guys know, if you hear some crunching, that's what you see, or that's what you hear.
I'm so excited.
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned them because now I have permission to eat them.
Yeah,
so
it's okay.
I'm very excited.
It's fine. It's 10:30 at night. You're eating a snack. It's not like professionalism here. We're all having fun, right?
We're just having fun.
Have we ever been? Yeah,
it's like maybe once or twice, but that's about it.
We've eaten like a lot of stuff on this show in the past.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be a lot worse.
I mean,
and that's why I was like, I gotta bring it back.
Yeah, because when we had like 5-hour marathons, we were like, hold on, I'm going to the refrigerator. Let me go get
my
pizza, Taco Bell, Subway, chips, whatever.
Yeah, let me go get my package of cookies.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But we do have a show to talk about. It was actually hard to come up with a topic because it was just like, there was like a good amount of news pieces, but there wasn't anything like this is a topic. So we want to talk about the X-Men stuff. So that's what we decided on. But let's get into the news. So first up, we have the Revival television show. That's like a long time coming, this TV show. I love this book. I'm such a big fan of Revival. So to see it finally get a show, and there's been so many iterations of shows like it where someone comes back and there's a group of people, but I feel like this comic did it in such a perfect way that I hope it translates to television.
Okay,
isn't that where the My Baby Kicked thing came from?
Yes.
Yeah,
no one here probably knows that.
No, but yeah.
Can you look up when Revival was? I want to say it was like
I looked at it. It's 2015 it started.
2015, that's it?
Almost 10 years ago. Yeah.
I thought it was longer than that. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was longer.
No, because we were talking about it on this show.
So. Oh, I know we were talking about it on this show. I just thought it was like before
I thought it started sooner before that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been like 2011 or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. 12. That was my initial guess. So I'm excited if they actually come out with it and go through with it. Man, I'm on board with that.
I hope so.
Never
man. It's such a good comic. You didn't finish it?
Never finished it?
No,
it was 2012. It was 2012. It was released.
Yeah, see?
No.
Yeah, I thought so. So maybe it ended in 2015 or something. Or I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it seems like it was longer than that, but it was still going on when we started this show. I do remember that because that whole My Baby Kicked stuff, and we were thinking about like doing.
I was the only one reading it.
Yeah, yeah, you were. I only read like when I was doing another review show with some friends of mine. I only read like a few issues of it, and I liked it. I just, for whatever reason, I just never got into it, and so. I'm kind of excited about the show because I don't actually know everything about it except for what I've heard from you all. So
it should be fun, and that's the best type of comic adaptations is when you don't know anything. I feel like Paper Girls is a good example. Like you read it, you gotta know where the show was going, so you can watch a show and be like, I don't even know. This is fun. Like The Walking Dead, I didn't read, so when I was watching the show, I was like, oh wow, that happened. And obviously, you have some of the big moments. You're like, oh. This person's supposed to die or this person loses their hand. But, I mean, Revival in particular is not a big comic, so you're not going to know kind of the big moments to happen.
Right. And I missed The Walking Dead when it was at its peak. That was so much fun. I love that. I loved the comic. I loved the show when it came out. And just, that was an awesome time, man. I like this question. Did someone steal Mike's hat? I actually have my hat in the other room and I was already in here and I was like, I don't want to go back and get it. I'm like,
have you ever done one of these shows without the hat, without a hat?
No,
I didn't think so. Yeah.
No. And I just got a haircut. So my hair is like, my hats are a little bit bigger than what they need to be. So like, I need to adjust them at the same time too. So I'm like, I'm not doing that shit right now. I'm like, I'm already sitting. I'm like, I'm behind the computer. I'll just deal without having a hat for a day and let everybody talk about how I don't have a hat on.
Or at least someone noticed right away.
Yeah.
It is weird. I noticed it and I just assumed you'd put it on before we went live and I didn't even think about it. So it's weird.
We do have a comment from Mike Manhattan. After Sci-Fi canceled Happy and Deadly Class, I don't have faith in Sci-Fi because they'll probably axe it. That is true. They have axed a lot of these type of shows.
Yeah, yet they hang on to some stuff that I'm like, really?
And yet they keep bringing shows like it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, Deadly Class had a fan base, but let's try bringing a Revival. And again, I love Revival, but Deadly Class had a bigger fan base than Revival.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll see.
We will definitely see. That's believe it or not, all the media news. So we're going to jump into some comic news here. You brought this to our attention, Brant. So Diamond is doing its thing and not doing well because obviously you got other distributors for comics. So they're like, let's branch into other things. And one was e-commerce, but one actually I had interactions with. So the other was Kickstarter fulfillment. And I got a message from Diamond saying this from someone from Diamond. I'm like, oh, wait, what is this about? And then I found out it was fulfillment. And I was like, okay. And then again, 2 weeks later or so, you're like, look at this article. And I was like, I got a message about this 2 weeks ago. So, whatever helps them keep alive, at least they're branching out.
They got to do something in all reality because they're not the monopoly that they once were, not even close anymore,
Yeah, and it's weird because, like, obviously they lost, all the big companies, but it always seemed like their biggest revenue was from, like, the toys and the collectibles and the statues and all that stuff anyway. So it's like those comics must have had a lot larger impact than we realized, or they've lost portions of their other business as well. I don't know, but that's crazy. It's like, I just don't know if, like, with all the problems that comic creators have had, or like retailers and stuff have had with Diamond, why the comic creators would trust them to fulfill on time and all that stuff either. But
that's very true. Like,
I've had no dealings, so yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, all I've heard with, like, even from the packaging is like, oh man, they didn't package this today, or whatever.
Right,
so it'd be like, oh, to trust fulfillment. Again, I don't know enough about it, but
yeah,
I will say the one thing: there's not a lot of people doing it. Right. It goes back to, like, the competition aspect. It's like, is there a lot of people fulfilling? Yeah. Not really.
That's true. There's, like, I know of a couple of, 2 or 3 people that actually do it. And then, like, some printers will help out in that area as well. But yeah, you're right. It's not a whole lot of people that do that. So
especially people who are international doing Kickstarters, they are always looking for, like, people in America to fulfill.
That's true.
I think my comic shop, I think, doesn't use Diamond, or if they use Diamond, it's very, like, sparingly. I think now they use Penguin, Random House, and then they used, was it Lunar for DC? So I think they use them mostly, and then maybe they get the toys from Diamond or whatever it is, but they would always get stuff damaged from Diamond. That was the thing. And so I don't know. And it was nice, and it wasn't delayed. And then with Lunar, like, it would always come early. So they would never have an issue getting, like, DC books. They've never had an issue ever since then.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard any damaged or delays, which is nice. Unlike, a little bit post-COVID. All right, let's get into the next thing. I'm trying to save all the X-Men stuff because that's kind of the big topic we want to talk about. But Gotham City Sirens, that's coming back, and the creators is, I believe, Leah Williams. Let me see her name. Yeah. Williams. She did, I believe she did that Dazzler series we like, the group series, the
Executioners.
Extermination or something like that.
And she does
Extermination. Yeah, whatever.
She does Power Girl as well. So she did the Mary Jane series, and then we have Matty O'Lally, who, I've seen their artwork before, and also Daniel Hilliard, who did all the plush vinyl plastic stuff, and Branton Stein, who did Crowded, which I really liked. So, I like the art. I think the art is going to be fun. And again, Leah Williams, we'll see what they bring. It's interesting because it's like, it's been a long time coming. Like, I hope it's good, but it's like Birds of Prey, where that's kind of been a little disappointing. So I don't know if they're just utilizing the franchise and it'll fall flat. But I'll definitely get it.
I like that they're, like, having cameos from White Rabbit and I think that's her name, and Punchline, and other characters.
Oh,
like that. So, yeah.
I can honestly say like I'm not really excited about it. I just after reading like Supergirl or I should say Power Girl, I'm just not like I read the tie-in story for Power Girl for Brainiac, and I wasn't like really that excited about it. And obviously the other stuff that she wrote in like the backup stories, I don't know. And nothing against her. I'm not a huge fan of her writing. The Executioners, the X-Men stuff was probably a little bit better. There were some, I think the first couple issues were pretty decent, but I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. I know y'all didn't like that Mary Jane series either, so.
Yeah, I think it was hard to also rate it because it didn't end, It was just like it was a half-baked story, so
yeah,
it was
that's
also
true.
hard to,
Yeah.
It was around that time. We also have a new viewer release live. Good Guy Jay said, just stopping by. This is my first live video. I'll be back for more. Thank you.
Thanks for checking it out.
This is another question I didn't add to the news just because it was one of the later news pieces, and I don't think we were too into it. But did you guys hear Tom King is writing a Jenny Sparks book? I've been enjoying Tom King's Wonder Woman, so I'll give it a shot. But I don't know who she is, so I don't know.
That's my thing. Yeah.
Right?
That was the only reason I was like, okay, I don't know who this character is, so why do I care?
The one thing I'll give you is at least Black Label's doing characters that aren't just Batman and Superman. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And Tom King has been doing the very DC list characters like that Danger, whatever. I forget what it's called. Danger Zone, whichever his last book was. And it was all like Lady Cop and these people that no one has heard of. And I only know Lady Cop because when I was a kid, I was looking at comics, I was like, who's Lady Cop? And that's the only reason I remember that book. And I think I bought one issue because it was like $5. So Jenny Sparks is from Authority. So they're from Wildstorm, which I've never really read any Wildstorm stuff.
Yeah.
I never read Authority, so it just wasn't one of my go-tos.
So I'll check it out though. I'll pick it up just to show DC. Let's see some different types of books. All right, I think we're getting into the X-Men stuff. So we'll go through the actual news pieces, and then we'll talk about the bigger story of what's Marvel doing with the X-Men. So Wolverine has a new creative team. Let me pull it up because I don't remember who it is. The creative team is Saladin Ahmed, who did Miles Morales, Miss Marvel, and then Martin Coccolo, who I'm not familiar with their art, but I'm not a huge fan of Saladin's writing. I've read Miss Marvel, read his Miles Morales, so I don't know.
He's doing Daredevil right now too.
Right, doing Daredevil currently, which I dropped. So
that's 3 strikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for us, people may love all that stuff, but I know none of us really enjoyed any of those. So,
and Benjamin Percy does Wolverine right now, and it's pretty good. And I just like when I heard that, I was like, man, like I'm gonna try it out. I'll because it's Wolverine. Yeah, it's like you almost
get the first issue.
Yeah.
But I'm just not. I'm like not excited for the long term of the book. I think.
So I feel like sometimes a writer they like shine on certain characters, right? So maybe this will be Saladin's shining character.
He missed out on Miles. Obviously, Miss Marvel, I thought was even worse, right? No. And then Daredevil.
And Daredevil, we all dropped it. Yeah.
And Daredevil, I think, I don't know, like Daredevil, I don't know about you guys, but Daredevil is not like my favorite character, but if he's written well, I think you can get into him like with
way back in the day, Mark Waid, Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah, the last run though was pretty decent. Like the first part of it, right?
The first part was,
yeah.
The second half after the event, I was like, "Where is this going?" I was spinning its wheels. But honestly, and I think we both all agreed, and I'm very excited for the actual series that's coming out. Elektra. The reason I really enjoyed Chip Zdarsky's run is because Elektra was Daredevil, and I'm very excited to see Erica Schultz write Elektra because the only thing I liked about Gang War was that series. So I'm very excited for that side of Daredevil.
Right.
I mean, when you look at it, I'm trying to think What was it?
Just also not to interrupt Mike, but just to
Yeah.
clarify, Mr. Negative says, nah, Cody is doing the current Deadpool and Miles. Ahmed did the last
Yeah,
Miles. That is
right.
what we're referring to when we talk
Yes.
about the Miles run.
Yeah,
So.
the last run. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
When it came to another Daredevil series, I think that we liked was the Mark Waid and
Mark
Sandman
Waid
run.
and yeah, absolutely.
That one was pretty good. And yeah, Miles, like Cody Ziegler, that's writing Miles right now, is really, really good. It like blows away the last run in my eyes. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Maybe this could be his guy. Maybe he has a story that he really wants to tell, and hopefully he'll deliver. But you know, I'm not gonna hold my breath right now.
I think that's a smart way to look at it.
Yeah.
Moving on to let's talk about Marvel revealing 12 mutants to compete to be Apocalypse. So let's screen share this for a second.
Yeah. Interesting choice of characters here.
Very interesting.
If you guys can just like explain this to me, what's the point of an X-Men taking over for Apocalypse? Like, what is Apocalypse doing that they're taking over?
I think it literally is just like, we gotta do something with the X-Men. This is exciting.
But what does Apocalypse do? Like,
that's what I'm saying. I'm not clear on what the purpose of this is. Like,
I guess
they're an heir. An heir to what? To the world that he's in right now?
Yeah, is it like he's going to be the leader of like that other group of mutants? Is that what this is, or something like that? I don't know what this means actually.
And then where does he go? Is he like disappear, go away, die? Like, I don't get it.
And it goes back to what our main topic is Marvel throwing too much to the X-Men? Because I agree. Like, yeah, I read this. I'm like, well, I haven't been reading X-Men. So I'm like, oh, maybe something was happening and I don't know about it. But this is just like, oh, Apocalypse is a big name. Let's do something with it, I guess.
Apocalypse came back during the fall of Krakoa. I mean, he's popped up a couple of times, but he's not done anything significant.
Right.
So
the last time I saw him that I remember was like that tournament that during that event.
Yeah.
That was a long time
ago.
He
disappeared in that, and then he popped up a couple of times like recently, like in the recent months. Like as all this was going on, just as like almost like a cameo. But he hasn't really done anything as far as I can remember.
Well, let's read out who's taken over, and then we'll gotta get into nitty gritty again. We got Armageddon Girl, who I don't know who that is. Cable, Cypher, Emma Frost, Exodus, Forge, the Gorgon, Mr. Sinister, Mirage, Penance, Richter, and then Wolverine, which is Laura version of Wolverine. What an interesting mixture. There's some, again, who the hell Armageddon Girl is, I don't know. But then you have like people like Mirage, which is more of like a cult classic character. But then you have like people like Emma Frost, which is a fan favorite character. So I'm just like, well, I'm also
here's what
confused.
I think. I don't think it's going to be. Oh, go back so I can see it, Kat. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. No, it's okay.
I think
exit out, hon. I know. I was so fast. I always hate keeping tabs open. All right, here we are. There we go.
Okay. I think it's not going to be Laura.
No.
She's going to be in another book, right? So, and I also think it's not going to be Emma either. And it's probably not going to be Sinister. It's probably not going to be Mirage. I think my guess would be it would be Exodus. If I had to be.
That's boring.
I will say that Richter stands a chance because there was a storyline a couple of years ago or a few years ago where he was in Excalibur, I think, and he was tapping into a new power set, and I believe Apocalypse was kind of his mentor.
Let me see who's also writing this. That might end up helping as well if they have a writer. Fox says so. The 42 bi-weekly series. I don't know who Fox is.
I believe it's Steve Fox.
Steve Fox, who has written what?
I don't remember, but I remember the name.
All right, let's see. So I'm guessing, Steve Fox, I'm guessing, is involved with this because at least that's who is last March was saying something about Apocalypse, but doesn't actually. Oh, maybe it does say who's writing it. Nope. Oh, it is Steve Fox. So let's see what Steve Fox has written.
It's written some Dark X-Men, Psylocke, Spider-Woman, X-Men 97.
So anything that relates to these characters?
There's Mirage is on one of these covers. Some kind of X-Men Unlimited Infinity comic. Dead X-Men.
I didn't read any Dead X-Men.
From
what I remember, Dead X-Men.
I read the first issue in Dead X-Men, and it was not good. I thought you guys did too.
I read the first issue. The only thing I remember about it was that it was a lot of New Mutant characters, if I remember correctly.
They were the original. They were the team that was supposed to replace the X-Men when the gala happened.
Right.
I don't even remember who was part. Let's see. Dead X-Men roster. Let's look at to see who's what you need to know about Dead X-Men. You do have a so I think that's who's in the front. Is that Cypher? Or is that I don't think that's Sunspot. That looks like Jubilee.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. So Jubilee, Dazzler, Prodigy. Cannonball, Prodigy, Frenzy, and Laura, the older version, was in this. So I don't know how much that helps, but
I don't think any of it helps.
Yeah, because I don't think any of these people were part of that team. But point being, that means there's no thread to lead to this.
I mean, you just look at it though, and it's like, again, Laura's going to be in another book, right? Forge is going to be in another book with X-Force. So I don't think it's going to be those two people at all.
I'd forgotten about this. I'd forgotten Cypher had married that Bay from.
Oh, yeah.
So I could see that too. Yeah.
Maybe. Yep.
But what sells books? Like is Cypher as Apocalypse going to be like, oh man, got to pick that one up,
Yeah.
But maybe just the idea of this competition is going to sell the book. And then in the end, it won't lead to any other book. So it's just like, here it was. This is the book you were supposed to buy.
Yeah. Maybe Apocalypse just says, screw it. I'm just going to stay where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. Imagine no one's Apocalypse by the end. We'll see. So that's that one, huh?
I'll say one thing. It's kind of cool. The artist doing that Heir of Apocalypse miniseries is Nito Diaz. I worked with him on a cover for Curiouser.
Oh, nice.
It's cool. Yeah, and I think he just got another big Marvel project after that one. So congrats to Nito for that.
Nice.
Art does look good, so that's I'll check out the issue 1. Why not? It's just crazy enough. I do like a good battle royale, so I'm at least interested in that concept. I don't know if I care about the plot, but the concept's interesting to me. All right, let's get into the next thing here. Actually, I didn't even look to see if there's any comments or anything. So let's look at that. Too many X books out. Couldn't agree more. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that as the main topic in a bit. Armageddon Girl's Nature Girl. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Who's Nature Girl?
She's the one that was in the deer person.
She was in the Unlimited series on Marvel Unlimited, in the digital app. That's where she came from.
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's where she came from.
She's shown around.
Steve Fox writes that, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, she looks like a deer. I'm seeing it right here. So she's just this girl. Yeah, there's not much else to be said besides that.
She should be the next person to take over for Apocalypse. That's a great replacement.
All right, well, moving on to the next thing here, which is Dazzler and Storm getting solo series, which actually ties into this mutant thing. So I didn't even kind of relate the two, that Storm is getting her own series, and they're like, wait, let's put her on an Avengers series.
That's not enough.
That's not enough. We need more Storm. Dazzler, writing on the wall, she's going to be in that Deadpool movie. When's the last time you had a Dazzler ongoing series? Hey, I'm happy as a Dazzler fan, but she's obviously going to be in that movie if they're giving her a series. And then the Storm thing, we've seen X-Men on the Avengers. It doesn't interest me unless there's something. Honestly, what would interest me the most if it was Cyclops, someone who's just so against humans, or the X-Men who's gone to the bad side. I guess which is every X-Men at this point, but someone who really hates the Avengers would be someone who might have been a Boy Scout before, but like wouldn't like the Avengers now, I think is interesting. But Storm, I don't know. I mean, you have the Black Panther connection, I guess, but Dazzler, I'm excited for.
I mean, so what do you have mutants on the Avengers now? You have Quicksilver, who's on the Avengers at the moment, if you read the most recent issue. And then you have Scarlet Witch on there, right? So those are the two.
Wait, so they already have mutants on the Avengers, and they're like, wait, this is such a big deal.
We'll talk about it later because it wasn't originally. I think Scarlet Witch was already on the team, but Quicksilver wasn't. But we'll talk about it later. But we've seen, like you said, I think Rogue was on the Avengers, right? Wasn't she in Avengers comic book before? Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Uncanny Avengers or
something.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
Wolverine, Beast.
But has Storm ever been an Avenger?
Somebody in the comments said she has.
She has? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Serenity.
I don't have
Serenity knows.
I don't have a problem with it because Jed McKay is going to be involved with the Avengers in general. I mean, the X-Men. And so he's going to be writing a mutant in his Avengers book. So I think he's just trying to kind of make the world a little bit more connected than it is right now in the Marvel universe. And I don't know. I think I think Storm could be a pretty decent Avengers character, though.
I like her on the Avengers, but do you need Storm, Captain Marvel, and Thor?
Well, I was thinking about that too. I'm like, well, they're going to be very overpowered.
Right.
But then at the same time, I'm like sitting there going, well, when you look at the X-Men in general and you look at all the characters that are in there, as a team, they're pretty OP too. True. I mean, you got Omega level mutants all over the place, and you look at this Krakoan age, and if you put them all together like you did, I mean, they were controlling the world.
I guess the difference is the X-Men, no matter how powerful they are, they're always hated and feared. Yeah. Where the Avengers are praised, Sure. So it's like, okay, now we got these super overpowered characters all together, and I don't know, it's a little too much for me. I think it needs to be a little more balanced. So, but I don't mind her being on the Avengers in general.
Sure, it might be an interesting story. I mean, obviously she's an interesting character that works well on a team, and the solo series I'm interested to see. Again, if anyone deserves it, I think Storm is a popular character. Sure, I think she does deserve it, and she's had it before.
Is she gonna get a solo series, or was that just
I think she's getting a solo series too. So. That's like in the announcement.
I thought that was just a fake out to be like, oh, Storm, and then she's actually gonna be on the Avengers only.
Pretty sure she's getting her own series. So maybe they're just really pushing Storm. We have two questions from Tevia. One was, why isn't Spearman on the Avengers? I mean, I like when he's on the Avengers, but also he's not like a mainstay on the Avengers. Yeah. He's not like known to be on the Avengers.
Right.
And then the other question is, of course, my all-time favorite types of questions. Who cares about Dazzler? I care about Dazzler. Isn't that enough? But honestly, like in all seriousness, I think something that's interesting about her character is that she's like a cult favorite. It's like a Runaways type situation or Super Sons situation where, she's just like a cult favorite character. She has a cool aesthetic. Yeah. And what I like about Dazzler and why, and this is not me being biased, but it's also me being biased, is that she is a character that can give you something different that these X-Men can't, right? Not saying Storm can't, because I'm sure you could dive into other Avengers that are not X-Men related, but Jean Grey, you're gonna get an X-Men related story because that's what Jean Grey is gonna do. But Dazzler, you're gonna get a music driven story. You might not have to involve the X-Men at all in Dazzler's story because she didn't start that way. And I think those are the solo series that are gonna succeed, or the ones that are not related to the X-Men.
Yeah. No, I agree. And she's not oversaturated like a lot of the X-Men characters are either. So like when she popped up in that Gwen story, it's like, oh, that's cool. Sure. That's got this little part here, and it was fun.
I agree. And again, there's just a lot of speculation with her being in Deadpool. So I think they're trying to take advantage of that.
Sure.
To get her more in the spotlight. Serenity said maybe there'll be a second Avengers team eventually and break it up. So who knows?
That would be
I can see
fine.
that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
they
mean,
probably
he's-
need it with all these X-Men titles. You need to have something else.
I mean, with the Avengers, he's already shaken up the team
Yeah.
few issues in. So
Right.
maybe McKay's, thought processes here is my Avengers team is not always going to be the same Avengers in every single story arc.
Which is fine because that's like classic Avengers where they had like half the Marvel universe was an Avenger.
Yeah.
And they would pick, the right ones for the team and all that stuff. So that I like that. I'm fine with that.
Right. Absolutely. So I don't
let's
know.
Let's talk about the overall thing. What do you guys think about? I mean, every week we've gotten here's X-Men, here's X-Men, here's X-Men, here's X-Men, and it's just like hasn't even started yet. I'm already X-Men fatigued.
I mean, it goes back to what we just said about like the Deadpool movie. It's like because X-Men are back in the MCU that they're trying to push X-Men so hard and like spread them all over the place. So it's X-Men, the whole zeitgeist is about X-Men now. Our minds are completely on X-Men. So we're geared for it, and we can, welcome it when it comes to other media and stuff too. So.
I mean, I think their plan is we're going to release a whole bunch of X books, and then we're going to see which ones sell, and then they'll cancel those, and then they'll keep the ones going that sell, obviously.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
I mean, you're not going to release like one X book, and then and then that's it. They're obviously not going to do that. Plus, with the show, I think people are excited about X-Men right now too. So,
speaking of which, sidetrack. I'm caught up.
You caught up.
You challenged me last week.
I watched one episode, so that's
a monumental thing right there for her.
I will tell you, Kat, if you like, Mike told me if you get to episode 5, it's just a whole other show at that point.
Yeah,
it's like they dig into so many deep stories from X-Men lore, and the last episode, I'm not going to spoil it, but it leaves off on a very iconic event in a certain book with a certain favorite character. It was like, oh, they went there. So
yes,
it gets really good.
I actually purchased
I liked
that
it.
book. I purchased that book on eBay when I saw that because I went through my collection. And I'm like, do I have it? And I don't have it. I'm like shocked that I don't have it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have it, but maybe I need to look too.
So and then I bought it because I was like, I have to have this book now.
Yeah,
and
it's like
insane.
Yeah, go ahead. It's like I'm not the kind of collector that knows like issue and year and all that stuff, but I can tell you exactly which issue and which series this story.
I'm interested to see it when I do. And then I promise I will. Honestly, even the first episode, I'm like, oh, it didn't blow my mind as a first episode, but I'm like, oh, the X-Men fan.
It doesn't. It's just
good.
Not
it's
till
almost
5.
like a. It's just like a. It's just like here we are. We're their X-Men. We're back.
Right.
You know. And then
that's why I was like. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I was going to say, then I told Bram, I'm like, okay, well, the third episode, things get better. And then by the time you get to the 5th episode, you're just like, holy shit.
Right. You're
and then it's just, you're vested at that point forward.
That was exactly the thing. Like that's the reason I hadn't gone forward with it is because like, oh, well, this is fine. It's nostalgic, but it didn't blow me away. And then I watched episode 4 and I'm like, oh, it's a fun Jubilee thing. Mike's out of his mind.
And I told you that too.
I know. And then I watched episode 5 and I was like, oh crap.
Right.
And it just kept getting better and better and better. I was like, oh my God. It's so much.
I mean, what did you think about the end of episode 5? Were you just like,
I was just like in shock that they my shock kept growing that they just went there, and I was like, okay, this is not just nostalgic here. They're like going places they couldn't go in that original show here,
right?
And that's
what
that last about it.
In that very last line on episode 5.
I'm trying to remember now what that was. Refresh my memory a little bit without spoiling it if you can.
With Rogue and do you remember?
Vaguely.
And Gambit?
Yeah, I remember what happened.
But what she says?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Do you remember?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, when she said that, I was in shock.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I kind of rewatched that scene again. And I'm not going to lie, I actually cried. I did.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, just the emotion that came from that. I was like, man, oh man. I'm like, that's some tough shit right there.
Yeah, for sure. It's deep. It gets deep.
I mean, it's cool that Marvel at least is back, you know, in that regard, because there's something that people could get excited for. They really oversaturated their market, and now it's like, okay, even the next upcoming shows, right? You had this X-Men show, which is doing great, and then you had the Agatha show. Everyone loved WandaVision. Daredevil, everyone loves Daredevil. So I'm glad. Hopefully they're kind of getting back into shape. And Deadpool, even though it's MCU, not MCU, I mean, it is MCU, but very different flavor. I'm super excited for that movie, and it's been a really long time that I've been really excited for a Marvel movie. And also, there was just a big breath. Like, there's been a while since we've had a superhero movie.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to this X-Men show, it's literally the best thing that they've come up with on Disney Plus, because this just takes the classic
better than WandaVision.
Better than WandaVision to me. It's much more impactful. I mean, it is different in a way because this is a cartoon and that's a live action.
I want to see that Spider-Man show that was promised.
It's very,
I'm like sold on.
Right. I mean, it's very like WandaVision was unique and different. That's what made it fun, right? But for this to take X-Men on a show that was on a Saturday morning cartoon and go to levels that has never done before and stay true to the characters from the original run is really amazing. And what this shows, it's like, this is the way people view the X-Men in general. So it's just like, even though it's just like they have all these different comic stories of the characters, it's like people always relate back to this show, you know? So I don't know. But I guess that's why people don't like a lot of the X comics today, because they're so different from the way those characters were.
Well, that, and also like, I mean, I only saw the first episode of X-Men, but I could tell you there was a narrative and you felt like it was going somewhere. Like, oh, there's a cliffhanger where that's going to affect this, and that. And X-Men comics don't do anything anymore. They're like, oh, someone hates us. This is it. Or this is like the most over-explained story of why this is going to affect this, and that. It's just like, give me a simple plot twist. Give me X-Men at its core is a soap opera. Give me a soap opera. And they haven't done that in the longest time.
Yeah.
This is definitely a freaking soap opera. Oh my God, to the highest extent.
And that's what you want. That's what you want for the X-Men. And I want that from the comics too. And I hope, you know, Gail could give that. I hope maybe some of these solo series will give that. But I mean, also, you know, what I was saying before is that when you have so many titles, sure, you're kind of waiting to see what's going to be canceled, but also, as a new reader or anybody, it's just like, what do I pick up? It's like, do I pick up the Gail Simone? I guess, but then there's this, and that, and you feel overwhelmed and you don't want to pick it up at all at that point.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's definitely a balance. I'm not saying don't get one. Like, I'm not saying just make one X-Men book, but I'm saying don't make 20 X-Men books.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if we sat here and counted like all the X books that are out right now, I mean, I think we'd be really close to that number.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
and that's before all this relaunch stuff.
Right.
I mean, every day there's just a new X-Men book that's announced, and they're still not making a Kitty Pryde solo series. I don't know what they're doing.
So at least she's in a book. So at least
she is a main character of a book, but Storm's in 5s. No, I'm just joking. I do think a character like Storm it's hard because I think that's the type of character I do want to see more of. Like, I think she's a character with a lot of mythos. She's, you know, and she has a fan base. So Storm is a hard example, but maybe Jean Grey is the better example, where I'm like, do we need a solo series for Jean? I don't know.
I honestly don't think so, just because we've seen the Phoenix stuff done to death. And it's just like, you're figuring that she's Phoenix again. And she's obviously not a part of a team. She's going to be probably in space. Right. So it's probably going to be Cosmic Book or something.
Yeah. You know what I would like to see? I'd like to see a book with all the Summers characters.
That would be
really fun.
Yeah.
Like a family book. Yeah.
Yeah. Something they've never done before. Not really.
No, and you can make it in space too. You've had that idea. You've had like Cyclops' father was in space.
Yeah.
Jean Grey's obviously connected to space. Do it. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's something different. And I think one of the best aspects of like Cable's characters when he's hanging out with Hope, like bring Cable and Hope along for the ride. Like that would be really, really fun. And I think that's the stuff I want to see. Think outside the box. Like even the Dazzler announcement, like I don't know what that series is even about. What am I getting excited for? Like I'm guessing it's gonna be about music. I don't even know if it will be, you know?
Yeah.
So it's hard. Any other thoughts on X-Men before I'm gonna talk about some Kickstarters and then we'll get into some comics. There actually was a lot of comics, but any other X-Men thoughts? All right. We are gonna talk about some Kickstarters and then we will get into those comics. All right. So first I'm going to talk about my my detective series, The Last Case of Devin and Taylor. If you're a fan of Nancy Drew or the Hardy Boys, this is not the question of who did it, but it's why they did it. And we try to deconstruct what the detective story is. So if you enjoy that style of storytelling, go check that out. And then we also have Witches of Oz. You get to see the background as always here. But yeah, this is a romance story between Glinda and the Wicked Witch. And we get to see what their story is after the Wizard of Oz. So hopefully you guys could go check that out. That's actually ending on Thursday. So, all right. Oh, actually, I just realized it's not screen sharing for the Witches of Oz. So I'll show you the screen sharing of Witches of Oz. But yes, go check out that campaign. Terry Moore did art for it, which we're really happy about. We have some exclusive covers. We actually have the original art from Terry Moore, which was taken in the first 10 minutes of the campaign. So we're really happy about it. Go check it out. All right. We are going to now move on to...
I actually have one thing that I want to promote
go for it.
For my friends, Frank Zanka and Mark Spears, who actually does the artwork for Spawn books and other variants covers, and he's come up with his monster cards. Well, him and Frank have actually teamed up on what is it? Is it Backer? What is it called? Backer Kit? Yeah, Backer Kit. And they've come out with a card game. It's called Myth Lords Classic Monsters. And so it's like one of these tabletop games. And it launches on May 20th. So I'm actually pretty excited that these guys got together to do this because they kind of came to me and they're just like, you think Mark might be able to work with me on this project? I'm like, I don't know, get with them. So they actually came through with it. They came up with the idea. It launches on May 20th. And it's just it's a tabletop game with all of your favorite classic monsters on it. So again, if you're interested, go ahead and check it out. It just popped in my head to, give you guys an idea of what this actually is. So Myth Lords Classic Monsters, Brant pulled it up for me. So that's what it looks like. Projects. So really cool stuff, man. There's a trailer for it as well. So you can check out the trailer. And if you know who Mark Spears is and you like his artwork, you're probably going to really like this game.
Cool.
That's cool. The art looks great.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess it's comic talk time, huh?
It is.
All right. So there was actually some books that I really liked this week, and I kind of struggled with my top. I have 6 books, and one I could not decide what would be number 5 and what would be number 6. So I just made them both number 5 when we get to that point. But let's
cheating.
It is cheating. I don't like cheating, but I really couldn't make a decision.
No, you don't do it very often, so you could cheat then.
Yeah, I read 27 books this week.
Did you really? Holy shit. That's more than me. I think I read 21. I think it was.
All right, guys. I read 10.
I honestly liked 20 of them. They were,
wow.
I had a hard time as well. So,
all right. So let's talk about it. We all 3 of us read. We'll start off with Batman Batman issue 147.
I thought this was a much stronger issue than we've been getting, in my
I
opinion.
do
I
too.
thought this was so much more coherent. I like that it was more character driven because you got Damian figuring out about the failsafe stuff. You got Tim interacting with Batman, I think, in the end of the issue, if I remember correctly. This is a much better issue. This is like what I want Batman to be, and it hasn't been in a while.
Yeah. No, I agree. I liked it a lot. I love that Damian finally figured it out. It's like that was driving me crazy. It's like, Damian, come on, wake up, man. This ain't your dad. So yeah, that, and then obviously the fake Damian or whatever, coming out towards the end there. So yeah, definitely more cohesive. I agree with you. And the art was really nice too.
Yeah, and I really I did, like you already mentioned it, but I do like the light bulb moment. Like it literally, he has the facial expression. He's like, wait a second, you're Zur. And then everybody else is going to be Zur as well. And then I mentioned this in my review. Like, I really like how they finally showed the scale of this Batman robot, like how much bigger he was compared to like Amanda Waller. He's like 3 feet taller than she is, but yeah, there were some good moments, and I liked the end of it where we got to see Dick in the house and everything else like that. And Kat mentioned this, like we haven't seen Tim in like since the beginning of his run, so it was good to see him back again as well.
Yeah, I like that too. I even liked the Riddler thing at the end.
Did you?
So, yeah, I liked it all. I liked the whole. I didn't care. I
Yeah.
thought it was fine. It's
Right.
like it wasn't like, oh, I hate this. I wish they didn't put that in there. It was like, oh, this is fine.
And then Batman's wearing another new suit, so there's that too, of course. But much improved. So good stuff. I'm glad to see it kind of on the right direction as he's on his way back for redemption. So I can't wait till
I can't wait till he's done with this.
Well, no, I what I'm saying is I can't wait till like he gets back to Gotham and people realize that this is not really freaking Batman, so.
Don't know how they've been tricked for as long as they have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so let's go on to Amazing Spider-Man issue 49. So
what a great issue.
Talk about two ends of the spectrum here.
That's my least favorite issue of the week, because honestly the most like frustrating part was you didn't need it in the main series. You literally could have just had the miniseries, and it made me less excited. I'm not getting a ton of books tomorrow, so that's why I'm getting the Amazing Spider-Man tie-in miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't need this. And then you got John Romita Jr.'s art. It was not it for me.
It's 22 out of 27 for me, so pretty low as well. Yeah.
I mean,
it's obviously the art, but the story too. It's just, I don't know. It's just not as good as I had hoped it was going to be leading into this event or whatever.
I didn't mind the book. I thought the book was fine because are you going to forget about it? Yes, you're going to forget about it. Does it really accomplish anything? No, it doesn't really accomplish anything. It's just like, it's not needed. They could have just done the spin-off book and be done. Right. At least though, it was Spider-Man being Spider-Man, and you got to witness the emotion and the tough time that he had in possibly killing this vampire. He looked at this vampire as, he's a human. I can't go through with this. Like, I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, there's got to be another way in order besides stabbing this guy through the heart. And so I felt a little bit of the struggle there with Peter, which I could appreciate it. And then he got tricked,
Yeah, I would have appreciated that more if he hadn't started off the issue with, oh, they're vampires. I don't care. I can do whatever I want to them. And then quickly having the, oh, no, I can't.
It's like he almost had like he had to take a second to think about it moment,
Yeah.
So, but it is. It's just, it literally is a throwaway issue. It's very filler. You're not going to need it. You're probably not even going to need it for this mini series that's coming out too,
No, I thought you would, but I don't think you,
right.
After reading it, it's like, nah. It's not even going to connect.
Got it. All right. So let's talk about Transformers issue 8. And before Brant and I talk about it, I want to hear Kat's thoughts on it.
I liked it. It is in my top 5, so that's
Okay,
good.
good.
Trying to remember everything that happened, but from what I remember, I liked, you know, the what I've been enjoying about Transformers. I enjoy the human characters more. I enjoy when they interact with the robots. There's still characters I don't know who they are, so there's like cliffhangers where I'm like, I don't know who that is. But from what I remember, I really like the emotional moments, and they're quiet in this issue. There's not a lot of huge moments as someone who's not a Transformers fan. I think I remember there's a cliffhanger with a character. Let me say.
Yeah.
I think it's that. Yeah. Oh, right. So we get to see him. So like I remember that. I'm like, all right, that's interesting. I just see who the robots are. But I just like seeing like moments with Carly, you know, just seeing her, I thought was fun. And I'm actually think it's interesting that Spike, his name is, since that last arc, you kind of get small moments with him, but he's not as much of a main focus. They definitely shift focuses a lot in the series. And I think this one was a little bit better balanced in the regard where like, okay, let's see the humans for a little bit. Let's see the villains for a little bit. Let's see the good guys for a little bit. So I liked it. I don't know if this is the best issue because there's definitely moments where I'm like, what happened in that? What happened in that? As someone who's not a Transformers fan, but I in the moment I also enjoyed it. So I think it's a very much right now we're in the point A to point B area where it's like, oh, something big's gonna happen. We're not there yet. Also, just remembering the things from the Free Comic Book Day book, I feel like they kind of bleed together as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I read the Free Comic Book Day book this week, so
it
was kind of bleeding together for me too a little bit. But yeah, we got to see the cliffhanger with Shockwave, which was a big deal for Transformers fans, obviously. But I agree with you though. I think the Carly stuff was probably the strongest stuff in the issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, her just like dealing with this anger and this frustration and you know, and dealing with like these alien beings that won't go there, and she doesn't understand why, and that disconnect there. And
it's more it's more encompassing. It's not like, oh, this one little thing happened. It's more of like, this is how I feel about everything, which is why it's hard to pinpoint exactly. Like Carly said this. It's like, no, it's like almost Carly saying everything in this one scene.
Yeah. And then you also have like Optimus trying to be the stronger person, but knowing you get little hints that he's seen more, you know, and they kind of, you know, allude to that a little bit in this issue as well. So,
I mean, this issue was a lot darker. I mean, all the way around, because not only do you see Carly go through her struggles of, you know, the loss of her family member and having to trust Cliffjumper and holding it against him, you get to see the struggle with Cliffjumper too, with that relationship being strained. You know, that was pretty dark. It was a sad moment, you know. And then we forgot, we haven't mentioned the whole Jetfire scene when he comes back and he's just a jet. He can't see, he can't transform. He's just used for transportation. And he's like, I'd rather be dead than be what I am right now, you know? And so that's kind of dark too. And then you get to see the Decepticons wind up going on an aircraft carrier and killing people because they have to, because information could spill and they could be attacked. So they're forced to destroy all the humans so they can find their base underwater.
At the same time, I love that. I think it's Thundercracker, the Decepticon plane. Like he had like this crisis of conscience, even as a villain.
Yes.
You know, and back in the day, you know, if you were a Decepticon, you were just evil, and if you were an Autobot, you were good. And there's these great areas with them now. And he was like, he didn't want to kill them. And, and he felt for them. And I like that. There's a little bit more poignancy.
Even Soundwave kind of was like, we shouldn't, but we need to in a way, you know? And then seeing Astro Chain at the end too, wanting to go after Megatron, you're kind of like, wow, what's his beef with Megatron right there? You know? So interesting. And then Shockwave shows up, and then you're going to get more Decepticons, which is pretty badass as well. There's a lot that went on in this issue. I mean, yes, there wasn't a lot of fighting or action in this issue. It took a break from that, but all these story beats were kind of needed in order to progress the story going forward.
Right.
Here.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
really good book in my opinion here.
I was trying to see if there was any action because for some reason I feel like, oh, I did see action, but I guess not. Yeah, I just always think about robots being action. Because look at all these
there
robots,
really
they're
wasn't
fighting, but there
in
really
this
wasn't.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was nobody fighting each other.
No,
No.
you're right. It's a lot of like what happens after the battle situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the Free Comic Book Day book was a lot of fighting.
Yeah, well, it's like it's a prequel
Yeah.
story. It's just basically,
Yeah.
you know, this is what happened with Megatron, the leader.
Sure,
of the
and like how they
Decepticons,
got to that
you know?
point.
Right. Okay, so let's go on to our number 5 now. So what was your number 5, Brent?
I'm gonna go with man, I'll go with Ain't No Grave, I guess.
Oh,
Not
mine
as
too.
good as okay, good. Not as good
No.
as I had hoped it would be. I think I just wanted a little bit more out of the story in the first issue. But I still enjoyed it, and I felt like it's very familiar storytelling from what we've read from Scotty Young before. But I like the character. I like that there's a little bit more to it than just lose like the typical story of losing the family and going off on this vengeance quest. It was a little bit more complex than that. And then there's that supernatural twist with it as well. So
Right.
I like those elements kind of mixed together. It made it more interesting for me.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page. I wanted to love it. I wanted this to be my pick of the week, but I
Yeah.
like the ambiance. It gave me enough for another issue, and I like the ending a lot. Her wanting to like kill Death because I was flipping through it. And I was like, there was a really good cliffhanger. What was it? And then I flipped back and I was like, oh yeah, she wanted to kill Death, which is such an interesting concept because obviously the whole issue is her like coughing and her being sick and this idea of like, oh, she lost her family, did she
Trying to
die?
stop
What was
death
going on?
itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, there's definitely a lot there that it gives promise for a really great series. I just don't know if it was like a great first issue. But if you like this creative team, you're already kind of in for the ride. You're like, yeah, no, I'm going to give it issue 2 a shot. But if you don't know the creative team, I don't know if it pushes you. But as someone who does like that,
Right.
I'm
mean,
in.
with their track record, you would sit there and say, this is probably going to be a pretty good story,
Exactly.
Right.
And especially because again, you have a good ending where you're like, oh, that's going somewhere. I'm sold.
So this was the book. This was my tie
Okay.
with Avengers.
Okay.
So
I can see that.
I really liked Avengers because I felt that it tied in nicely with Blood Hunt. And I love the way that book was written. I liked the action of that book. And I liked how it felt more of a classic Avengers, where we talked about it earlier, where the Avengers were dismantled because of Blood Hunt, and Captain Marvel gives Captain America the okay to make the Avengers call and recruit like Hazmat and Quicksilver and Hercules. And I thought that was awesome. And you got to learn about those characters. And there's just some funny lines in there with like Nazi vampires and shit. And I actually really enjoyed it. And so where I thought for sure that Ain't No Grave was going to probably be a little bit higher on the list, it didn't make that higher up or maybe get a definitive number 5 because I was left wanting more. I didn't think it delivered enough. It was kind of like a lot of the similar things that we've seen from Scotty Young's adventure books in the past. It opens up very much the same way. So, but I did like it and I want to continue it. And I love the artwork that's in there. And it's a good book also for all the same reasons you guys said.
Right.
We do have a super chat from Comic Toby. Do you like pirate stories? Like Captain Hook or Christopher Columbus? I didn't know he was a pirate.
I didn't understand the second part of that.
But we'll answer the first part, the pirate stories. Yeah, they're fun. I think there's some that are good. There's like, I don't know if it sells me. Well, there's pirates, got to pick up that. But like, there's good pirate stories and there's bad pirate stories.
I like Pirates of the Caribbean. I like Captain Hook, but it's not like my go-to. It's got to be really good to sell me on a pirate story, I think.
I mean, when Nightwing was a pirate, I didn't like that.
No, I liked him more as Spider-Man.
I like Black Sails. You know, it just depends. Yeah.
All right,
Richard,
cool.
yes, Brent did watch X-Men 97. We did.
All
answer
caught
Yes,
that
we
one.
talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
We had a whole conversation, and Brent would admit that I was right. So,
Yes.
yeah. All right. So now let's go on to the next thing, and let's talk about The Boy Wonder. This is issue 1. My shop, I don't think he had it, so I didn't read it. So it looks like Kat is the only one that read this one.
I
that's
read it.
interesting.
I didn't mark
Oh,
Okay,
you
read
didn't
it.
mark it.
You didn't have to read it. It's not.
No.
It's not our style, I would say. It's not a bad book because it's definitely for someone just like any book, but it's very storybook. It's very like once upon a time situation.
Yeah.
I'm glad the book exists. It's artistic, but it wasn't particularly for me.
So my problem with it, as you know, a reader of Batman and Robin stories, it offered absolutely no new information whatsoever.
Except Barbara and Nightwing has a child's question mark. They kind of make it a throwaway line.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So there's that. But as far as Damian's story, it was just his story. You know, how he came from Ra's al Ghul and Talia and went to Batman and all that stuff. It was just the same story told in a different way. So I didn't really like it. I was kind of disappointed by it, actually.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So then let's move on to Brent. Did you read Spider-Man Shadows of the Green Goblin?
I did. Did I not mark that one either?
No, that's not marked either.
It's marked on my side.
Yeah, marked on
not
my
marked
side
on
too.
mine.
That's weird.
That's weird.
Yeah,
because both of those are marked on mine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird.
Refresh yours, maybe.
Yeah, let me do that. Let me refresh it. It's
Refresh
funny
and
because I
save.
just brought it up. I don't know why it's not marked.
That's weird. Yeah.
Spider-Man Shadow of the
Okay, now it popped up.
Shadow of the Goblins is a weird book because it's like a book I really want to like. 'Cause I'm like, look at this new goblin. That's cool. Look at Harry's mom. That's interesting. But then it just doesn't do it for me. As I read it, I'm like, oh, all this potential. They don't really tap into it. And art is not for me. I think it's really, really dialogue heavy. It's hard to get through for me. So I don't know if I want to get the next issue. I really had high hopes in every issue. I'm just like, this is not for me, even though it should be.
Dude, I really like this book.
You liked it? That's fun.
The first issue I loved. I thought
me too.
It like really surprised me. It blew me away. This issue, I was like, I felt more like you, Kat. I was like, oh man, it was kind of a bit of a slog to get through this one, and it just felt like, I don't know, it just felt different to me. And then like some of the facial expressions were a little bit off or over the top for me, and I just kind of lost a little bit of the interest and the excitement I had for that.
And they didn't do a lot for the Goblin. The Goblin's not really in this issue. It's like
just that
jumps around a lot.
Yeah, it was a little part where he was like looking in on his family or something, but then it was just like a little throwaway scene. But
I like the story. I thought it was. Okay. I like how it's not all focused on the Goblin. I like how it was also focused around Sandman as well. Like these guys are trying
that part was okay.
Like they're figuring out what's going on. Like Spider-Man's really kind of naive at this point in his career of being a superhero, and you know he's hanging out with the Sandman. They're actually having a conversation with each other, and he's just like, you know what, I'll let you go for tonight. We'll do round 2 tomorrow. And they're just, you know, they're actually just being human. It was just, I don't know. It was that part to me. It just was something different that you don't always normally see. I think, you could have done a whole issue with Red Goblin, but like Kat said, I don't think the Red Goblin warrants enough interest to make it all about him.
No,
you know?
Definitely not. I just think it's a balancing act because that also is what they're selling the series on. It's like there's this new Goblin, and it's just like, oh, I want more, but I also agree I don't want all of it because there's so many other interesting elements that, like you mentioned. I just I don't know. And maybe it's the art too. I think it's the density as well. It's just if it was this easier read, I almost would forgive it, but it took me a while to get through.
It was a dense issue.
Go ahead.
Yeah. That's all I was saying. It was a dense issue. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's dense. I mean, J.M. DeMatteis, a more classic style of writer.
That's
so
true.
He's going to write like that, I think. And I think this is one of those books where if you've read 6 or 7 books in a row and you're going on book number 8, you're going to want to power through this and you're going to be like, man, why can't I get through this book? So this is more of a book where you're probably going to want to read this first or just read an only issue. And I know when I read this book, I read this as like not with a group of other books. I did read this like on its own.
I think that definitely helped. I feel like I probably read this in the middle. I know I didn't read it first because it wasn't the book I was like most excited for. And usually I try to read books that are quick first because I'm like, oh, let me get into it. I'll read like a Lilo and Stitch or something before I jump into it. Like this is the type of book that would be in the middle. So, and also, again, I didn't expect it. The first issue wasn't that dense. So the second issue was a lot more dense than the first one. Or maybe I just enjoyed the first one more. I don't know.
This was probably like one of the last 5 books I read because I
out of 30.
yeah, because I forgot about it. So yeah, it was like this morning or something when I was reading this book. But yeah, I mean, I like the Sandman stuff. I thought that was fine. I just there was just something about this issue. Again, maybe it was the density, maybe it was when I read it, but it just I don't know. It was just a little bit much. And then I didn't understand like what was going on with the mom. With Harry and how she was trying to get him, then was mad that she had him, and it was like, what? I was a little confused by that too.
Yeah, I kind of was there too. Like, I'm like, why is she angry, or is she just like, is that happy angry smile? I don't know. I don't know what that.
If it was supposed to be happy, it was badly illustrated.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, well, we'll see what happens next, you know. So
yeah,
all right. Well, let's move on. Brant and I read this book. This is Geiger. This is issue 2, as we have the continuation of Geiger and Nuclear Knight working together to try to find this guy that particularly has a cure for Tyreek. And they come across this town. And in order to get information, they had to do a little job. They had to barter a job and try to kill somebody that was, you know, causing chaos in the town. And there was a lot of foreshadowing in this comic book of what was to come when it came to like family members. And it all started with like pigs, you know what I'm saying? And then it was like, oh, you need to protect your family. And they killed a pig in order to survive. And then you thought they would do the same thing with the family at the end, but they didn't kill anybody. So I don't know. It showed that this guy, our main character, has got heart.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. He definitely felt sympathetic, even towards the pig. He just had to do it, you know.
Right?
They weren't going to make it. And then I liked that, like, it wasn't just like a narrative of people against the glowing man or whatever. This town also had a thing against the Nuclear Knights because of what they had come in and done. And there was like this instance where they wanted to just kind of take out their vengeance on him, and they kind of had to skirt that a little bit. So
yeah.
And Tyreek issue,
and then Tyreek could have very easily let his little sidekick go on the train, but he picked him up, and it shows that, you know, this is my buddy, this is my sidekick now, and I'm going to do what I need to do in order to you know, to tag him along. It's almost like his brother at this moment, you know.
Yeah,
so I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Good book. I think this is pretty solid. I like this little quest that they're going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move forward to number 4. And Kat, what was your number 4?
Transformers. We already talked about it.
All right. What about you, Brant?
Mine was Avengers, which is why I could understand your
That's so funny
thing there.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I love the banter in this book between those characters, and being on this team with those particular characters, it's fun. It was just fun. That's all I can say about it, really.
Yep, absolutely. All right, and my number 4 was actually Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. It was the conclusion to this. The reason why it wasn't higher was because it's almost very predictable what you think is going to happen in this. But it was a solid story. And, you know, if I rate the whole story, it's like an A+ for me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Great beginning, great middle, great end. Just a nice, solid book all the way around. And like, I'm not going to give away anything, but like I told you guys, whenever that trade comes out, definitely read it. I think you'll enjoy it tremendously. It's just so cool to see like how this bear thinks and getting in her head. I just, that's what I love about it. It's so awesome.
Nice.
All right. So then let's move on to a book that you and Kat read. So that's Birds of Prey issue 9.
I want to like this arc more than I do, because the ending of like, oh, Batgirl and Black Canary and team up, this is so much fun. Batgirl's in the center of the story and kind of falls flat for me. She's like a demon dream thing going on. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. I want to continue reading it because it's like Batgirls. You're kind of like, I just want to see where it goes. And Batgirls end up kind of rewarding us, but yeah, so far I've only liked one issue of this book.
You guys told me, you're like, oh, I think it might be getting better. And here we are.
That was the one issue. That was the only one.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt the same exact way. This was ranked right above Amazing Spider-Man.
Same.
So, I mean, yeah, it was just that. It was like, it felt like it was going somewhere fun and cool. And then we got this and it just completely fell flat. And it's like, that's not what I want. So, yeah. That's how I feel about this book right now.
We'll see how long you guys hold on.
I don't know. I can't see myself not just because there's not a Barbara Gordon book. So I'm just like, I'll throw the $3.99. I feel like I'll probably
all these characters.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Yeah,
I can't promise I'll love it, but I think I'm gonna stick with it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about Ain't No Grave issue 1. So let's talk about Strange Academy Blood Hunt issue 1. So
I'm interested to see what you guys think.
Yeah, we read this because obviously we're going to try to get our Strange Academy fix in here.
Right.
This was a book that wasn't bad. Did you read Doctor Strange, Brant?
I did. Actually, because it tied in, I did.
So you kind of understand why the form that Doctor Strange was in, right?
Yeah.
So I did like this book because it was like kids being kids. They're like peeping, they're trying to overhear things of what's going on. And they're like, oh, let's take matters in our own hands and let's go on this adventure and solve the problem at hand. And that's kind of like what I liked about it. And then you come across that they had to find a Darkhold, and Darkhold's a kid. I'm like, since when did that shit happen? And I found out that it was in that series of one-shots that happened where people versed each other, and then someone.
I was a little confused by that too.
Yeah, and then I guess somehow the kid, like the Darkhold, became a kid somehow. I don't know.
I remember the one-shots. Yeah. I didn't read them because I think I read the first one that came out, and I was like, no, this isn't for me. So. But okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I was confused about. I was like, because as far as I knew, Wanda had absorbed the Darkhold and it didn't exist anymore. So
right. And then you get the little backstory with Agatha on the train with the kid and stuff like that.
Right.
And then you got that little girl, this new Strange Academy kid that you're introduced here, and she is actually a vampire when she doesn't have that little glowing creature with her. So that creature got knocked out. And then as soon as it got knocked out, she became a vampire.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's completely new, right? I've never seen her before. So.
No, she is new. Introduced first time, I think, in this book.
Very interesting, though. I like her. And I like this so much better than that crossover with Miles that they did a while back, that 3-issue crossover with the Strange Academy and the math thing. This felt more like the Strange Academy series as far as the way the kids acted and behaved and all that stuff. The art was really nice.
Absolutely.
So I really enjoyed all those aspects of it. I could have done without the Darkhold thing. But I guess it makes sense, if that was a thing that tied into this. If I had known that going in, maybe that would have been a little bit more clear to me. But, I really enjoyed it, and it made me miss that series so much.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, cool. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Let's go into our number 3. Kat, what you got for number 3?
Mine is Crocodile Black issue 1. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I thought it was an interesting series where we get to see this guy that's maybe the villain of the story is like killing people, it looks like,
Dude,
and then he's
got
And
big time mental health issue though. That's the thing. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
and it's revealed at the end of the issue, like you're slowly
Yeah.
creeping to understand, like, oh yeah, he's kind of fucked up a little bit, and then you get to see his perspective with the family, like his relationship with them. So I liked it. I liked that it was kind of a slow burn. But because it's a slow burn, it's hard to be like, this is my number one. But definitely like, oh, I want to see where this goes.
Yeah, I liked it. It's not my top 5, but it's just outside. But I like that. I like that you felt for him throughout this whole thing, because it's, and especially when the interaction with the dad, and just not understanding how to deal with any of that, and then he's seeing this person, which you don't realize that's, I guess he's seeing his little brother or whatever, everywhere, like in the backseat of the car and all this stuff. So you feel for him, and you kind of rooting for him a little bit, and then you see that part as the story starts to unfold, and it's like, oh, okay, so maybe the dad's onto something here, and then it's like, okay, so it got a little deeper there, and yeah, so I definitely want to see where it goes as well, but not quite my top 5.
I really felt his struggle. I mean, think about it. Like, think about how you felt during COVID when you couldn't go nowhere.
That's what was interesting too, is it was so specifically during COVID, because series usually tend to try and make an allegory about COVID without saying it's COVID. But this is like, yeah, it's during COVID times.
Right. And it's just like, and this boy was struggling, being inside, and he was dealing with escapism because of the situation that happened to him. And you don't exactly know 100% what that situation is, right? You just know that he's dealt with it in it seems like a very dark way. And then he just delivers these groceries to this guy, and he comes to this guy that's dead, and you're led to believe that he takes these boots and he takes a cigarette, and and it's just like, you're led to believe that he committed a murder, whether that's true or not, it's still yet to be determined. But I was like, wow, this is intense. Like, this is pretty dark, and this is like stuff that could really actually happen, I feel like. You know what I'm saying? So that's what makes this book like hit home a little bit, because people struggle with mental illness all the time, and I could see that happening to somebody. So it hit me pretty hard.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's talk about, this was Kat's number 3, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Brant, what was yours?
Mine was actually X-Men Forever, issue number 3.
Oh my gosh, really?
This was the best X-Men book I've read in a long time, though, because there was so many.
Let me tell you something real quick. I did not read this book, but the guy at the comic shop told me, the employee there, he said, Mike, X-Men Forever is like the best. I'm like, I don't care, because I don't read it. He's like, oh, really? And I'm like,
that's funny.
Yeah, I was like, I don't read it because there's just so much X-Men stuff, and it's all connected. And I just like, I'm not going there. So he's like, oh, okay, I totally understand.
Yeah. And I get that too. I don't know what it was. It was just like there were little threads with Nightcrawler, Mystique, and Destiny that they picked up on. And that was a thing where Mystique was trying to take out Destiny because she kept these secrets from her, and Nightcrawler trying to play referee. So there was that whole thing they were dealing with. Then there was a Hope and Cable thing, and they had this beautiful moment where Hope was going to take out the Phoenix, or try to draw in the Phoenix somehow. And, she wants to see Cable one last time, and she like tells him, I love you. And it was like this touching moment between those two. And then, Cypher wakes up after, he's been, incubated by Krakoa, and comes out, and there's this whole thing. So it just felt like classic X-Men. It felt very big and very monumental. Like it meant something, this particular leg of this journey.
Right.
Unlike a lot of the other stuff around it. So I really enjoyed this issue.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you did. I'm glad there is some kind of payoff there when it comes to these books,
Right.
So, all right. And then my number 3 was the Spider-Man Shadow of the Green Goblin. So that was actually my number 3. All right, so let's see. Let's go forward here and talk about the book you guys read, and this is Shazam. This is issue 11.
Yeah, this I think this is a really solid book. I like it a lot. I think if you're looking for superhero fun, this is it. It's the kids finding out if they could be adopted by their foster parents. Chaos ensues, superhero stuff ensues, and it's a classic comic with great art,
Yeah.
solid writing. If you're just looking for a fun superhero adventure, this is it. And I think Josie Campbell just understands these characters very well. And I'm
Yeah.
honestly in for the ride. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I completely agree too. It's so much better than the first arc of this series. And then you get the cliffhanger at the end that, you know, comes out of
Yeah, the mom.
nowhere and that like throws everything into disarray. So yeah, really solid so far this run. So or this arc. So I enjoyed it as well.
Very cool. Glad that the creative team is paying off here. So that's awesome.
And usually when you get a second creative team, like something lacks, it's like either the writer or the artist, and like both are just superstars. So that's also very
Yeah.
wonderful. Because also, especially you had Mora, you know, who was doing the art before, but
Right.
then you get an artist that's just as good, which really feels nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Good. It's like that in Transformers. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a similar
Yeah.
style too. Honestly, this
Right.
style fits more than the damn Mora's art because it's like more cartoony.
I agree.
It's a Manuela Lupacino who does it. It's
Oh,
fits
yeah.
better for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. So let's go forward. So Brant and I read this one. This is Blood Hunters issue
I skipped
1.
this. This is an anthology, right?
It's an anthology.
Yeah.
Not my.
I didn't
it
know
was
that.
Like, I was.
You
I was
didn't
kind
know
of-
it going in.
I was just like, do I buy this? I'm like, I know it's an anthology. I'm like, but I'm going to do it for worthy ones. So I could care less about the first two stories. I thought the Hawkeye one was a little bit funny, you know.
Yeah.
But I like the third story, and I felt the whole book should be the third story. It would have made for a much better spin-off book than an anthology book.
Which one was the third story? Was that the cloak? I mean, the dagger story?
Yeah, the dagger
Okay.
story with Elsa Bloodstone showing up at the end. And it makes
Okay.
sense because Cloak is the one that's a Dark Force user who's up
Yeah.
in the sky freaking blocking off the sun right now.
Right. Yeah. I actually would have been fine if the whole story was the Hawkeye story because it was just funny, you know. And
Yeah,
so going into this, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like I get it because you're trying to make it's a very serious situation and you're trying to make it comical.
Yeah, exactly. His disguise was growing a mustache cat, so he was trying to disguise that he was Clint Barton.
Wow.
And that was the it was it was this whole thing. So going into it, I thought that it was going to tie a little bit more into the Hawkeye Black Widow story and just kind of a sidetrack, you know, into Blood Hunt. And
That's what they
I
sold
thought
it
was
on,
going on.
though. They sold it on
Right.
being a Hawkeye Black Widow story, from what I remember.
Yeah. So instead, we get that fun Hawkeye story. Then you get this story with J. Jonah Jameson and his son, Manwolf, you know, and their whole thing. And then you get the Dagger story. And those two stories were short. The Dagger story felt really short, and it could have been lengthened, and it would have been better, I think. But yeah, it's just that disappointed me because I didn't know it was an anthology kind of thing going in. And I think all the stories were fine, but none of them were really needed, except for, again, I agree with you, Mike, that the Dagger story is the one that tied in the best with what was going on. So
Exactly, yes. And
why do you need tie-ins for events? I think there's certain. I mean, look, there's certain ones that you do. Like, I'm in my mind's eye, I don't know what right now, but okay, Beast World, where Titans ties in the Beast World. Of course, that's gonna tie in because it has to do with Beast World. There's some tie-ins that work, and most, and it's.
I think the tie-ins that work well are the ones where, say, you have the writer of the event, right?
Titans is a good example of that.
And is writing the other tie-ins. And we talked about it. Jed McKay is writing the event. So he's writing Moon Knight, which ties in. He's writing Avengers, which ties in, right? And then he's writing Doctor Strange, which ties in as well. So I feel that those books work well with what's going on in the main event.
I think also, like, if you're telling a universe-wide event and there are certain characters that you can't highlight within the main series or whatever, and they have an important role to play, maybe those matter. So it just depends, though. I think they do so many because they know there are fans of so many different characters that they want to give everybody a little something.
Yeah.
But some of those stories,
I'm sure it's a sales boost.
Yeah.
Like if
True.
you're Italian, like, well, I got to read that because I'm reading Blood Hunt, or it's just
Right.
It's funny.
Well, see, Venom Blood Hunt, I didn't like that. See, that doesn't need to tie in, so
yeah,
I didn't like that one at all. Okay, so let's see. We're gonna go forward here. Where are we at?
I have no idea.
Number two.
We were at
number
number
two.
two. Yes.
Number two.
Yeah.
So, Brant, go ahead.
Mine was actually Strange Academy Blood Hunt, so we already talked about it.
Okay, and Kat?
Batman. We already talked about it.
My number two was Crocodile Black. So that was my number two. All right, and then we're gonna go on to Dracula Blood Hunt issue 1. Man, I read this. This was like one of the first books I read. I'm like, shit, this came out this week, and that was
right.
last Wednesday when I read it.
No, me too. Because I read all my books on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But no,
So
I read the previous one, so I like this kind of ties into the previous one, but this did tie into the book at least. Like I'm not saying I loved it, but it did. Like if you're reading Blood Hunt and you love Blood Hunt.
Did you read Free Comic Book Day Blood Hunt? You did, right? We talked about it.
Yeah. I read the Blood Hunt one, and it tied in because of the Dracula stuff. Yeah.
This is the point before all this happens. Before the point where Dracula's like, "Come with me if you want to live," like the Terminator moment. So you get to see all that stuff lead up into that actual point. And I thought that was actually good. I thought the artwork was good. I thought the action was good. And I loved some of the like she's like, I thought my dad was the best fighter I've ever seen, but Dracula is the most powerful I have ever seen.
I think the problem for me,
cool line.
Because I like this book. I like this issue because I like this character already. Like I said, it's tied into the event. It does well. But my biggest problem is I don't like the event. So I'm just like, do I want to read this? Like I
That's
don't
a good
care.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's a great tie into an event I don't like.
True.
It's like the Electra thing is a great example of that, where it's like, I don't like the event, but the book's good.
But like you said, if you're going to do a vampire event, a Dracula book is like the perfect tie.
Yes.
And tied in with Blade's daughter, who's been a fun character to read. Again, I know I was the only one reading her before, but she's fun. She's just like this teenage girl, daughter of Blade, trying to figure out stuff, kind of like a Buffy vibe. And again, is she the best new character in the world? No, but she's fun. Yeah,
I've liked her in anything. I mean, I haven't read her much. I didn't read that, but she popped up in Miles for a couple issues. I thought she was fine in that. So, yeah.
I'll read the next issue.
Here's a comment here. It says, there needs to be a story to tell in the event for tie-ins to make sense. Otherwise, it's fine to just show these characters showing up in an event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
There's got to be a story in the event. To make tie-ins make sense.
Yep, absolutely. And then, of course, we constantly get this one where it says, this event seems so unnecessary.
And it probably is.
Yep. But listen, just because you don't like it, Tevia, doesn't mean that other people don't like it, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
So you got to remember.
And these events are easy to drop. If you feel like they're unnecessary, then
don't read it.
You don't have to read it. Yeah. Because if you feel like, oh, this is not connected to my favorite book, then that's even better. You don't have to feel like you have to read it.
The wonderful thing about this one is that it's not overly long. It's not a huge drawn out event. There's a lot of comics attached to it, but it's not a long event.
So, no, it's like 4 months, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and I think we're getting like number 2 next week. So
so it's bi-weekly. All right.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
I think this is our number ones now.
Well, yeah, number 1. So Brant, is Transformers your number 1?
Of course it is.
Yeah, it's mine too.
Okay.
Mine's Shazam. I liked it. I'm having a good time
Nice.
with it.
Yeah, it was
I
it was
really
my number
liked it.
7, Cats. So yeah, it was really high for me as well.
Because sometimes you're just looking for like a little superhero fun, and like this,
Sure.
that was the type of week because like you had a lot of these like indies about people killing each other or fighting death, and then there's just this where they're just superheroes
Yeah.
having fun.
I find it interesting. Sacrificers wasn't on any of ours.
I
that
dropped
was,
Sacrificers.
Did you
Did you?
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, for one, number one, I don't know if I don't know if this is one of the books that my shop didn't have or I just overlooked it. And so I forgot. And then I was like, wait a second. I'm like, Sacrificers came out and I didn't pick it up. So I read it digitally.
Mhm.
And so I read it yesterday. And actually, the book was really, really good. So
That's
maybe
good
it's because I don't have a physical copy sitting right here that I kind of maybe overlooked it. But I still really liked it. Like I said, there's some good books this week.
Yeah. It was my number 6, to be honest.
Yeah,
I mean,
see?
so I enjoyed it. It just wasn't as good as some previous issues.
It's pretty powerful, man. It pretty much is. I mean, I feel bad for the pigeon guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Some
I
stuff
remember
happened.
from issue 1, we all feel bad for the pigeon guy.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to hand it over now to Brant. We're going to talk about the most anticipated books, our top 3 there.
Yeah. So I just threw one into my number 3 because I was torn between one both of you had. So I was like, I can't choose between those two, so I'll just throw something else in there for fun. Give us another book to talk about. So my first one's Doom. This is written by Jonathan Hickman, and it's Doom in the future being the only person that stands between the universe being destroyed and Galactus, and he's got to, defeat Galactus somehow. So I don't know much more about it beyond that, but I'm like,
It's a one shot.
I was on the fence of getting
curious
this
about it.
because it's a one shot. It's Hickman, but I was like, you know what? I'm not getting like a ton of books, and this is one of the bigger books, so I am gonna check out Doom.
Yeah, I'm getting it
see
too.
what it's all about.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So the two that I was torn between is both of your number 3. So we'll start with you, Mike. I Heart Skull Crusher number 3. Which I love that book.
But you weren't on. Yeah, you weren't on.
Me and Kat have a conversation.
My conflict.
And
Really?
I was shocked that Kat did not like this book.
No.
I'm shocked too, actually.
Yeah. I mean,
I should give issue 3 a shot.
Lead in this comic, and she's just like, it's too much for me. It's just like, what?
It was just so
Really?
it was so much being thrown at me. I just felt like it was so hyper.
Out of all the stuff that she reads,
Too old.
I
now.
thought Skull Crusher was too much for her. Like,
Too much.
it blew my mind. She thought the
I
game was too complicated and there's too much going on. And I'm just like, what?
I just need Caitlin Clark to play basketball. That's enough for me. That's all I'm looking for.
Okay.
I'm not looking for sci-fi. Maybe it's the sci-fi element. I don't know. Because I like the first issue.
It's not really sci-fi. It's more post-apocalyptic, if anything.
It's post-apocalyptic, and it's an underdog story. That's just
I do love a good underdog.
Yeah.
I do.
I mean,
I love the character. She is such a great character.
She's like, I mean, she kind of reminds me a little bit of Maps from Gotham Academy, a little bit of different characters. It's just like nothing is going to keep this girl down. No matter what, she's going to make this team. She's going to be a big star in this sport. And she's gonna kill a lot of people along the way. It's just fun. It's chaos, but it's fun. I like it. So, but yeah, I'm surprised by that, Kat. All right, so your number 3 is Uncanny
Let's talk
Valley.
about a book that's I actually really, really like. Which
I like that first issue too for that one.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought it was really solid. Uncanny Valley. It's this cartoon world colliding with our world. It's this, regular kid who you find out his mom is probably like a cartoon character, and they like get sucked into this adventure, and it's just trippy enough, but also just grounded enough for me to enjoy.
Yeah.
So, I liked it. I mean, hopefully issue 2 is just as good, but it's Tony Fleeks as well, so I think it's gonna be just fine.
Yeah. Or he's half cartoon, half human. Who knows?
Sure, that could happen.
It's Roger Rabbit meets Percy Jackson. That's that's the way I describe it.
World, Yeah. What else? What other cartoon, other things have been out there? Roger Rabbit, you already said.
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit's the big one. Space Jam.
Yeah.
Oh, Space Jam. That's another one. Yeah. No.
There was a Brad Pitt one. I can't think of the name of it.
That's the Cool World one.
Yeah, Cool World. Yeah. So, All right. Let's go with Green Lantern next, which is Cat's number 2. We all read it. We all love it. So that's
We know that Carol's gonna become a Star Sapphire soon. It's like
Yes.
has to be in
Yeah.
this issue if you look at the solicits. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm very excited for that because I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen in this issue. So yeah, I love Green Lantern. It's just such a it's a reliable series. Like every issue is good. I keep saying it reminds me of the Jeff Johns run in a way
It
where everything
does.
feels epic. It feels like things are. It's that soap opera you're looking for X-Men,
Yeah.
where it feels
Right.
like everything's changing every issue. Like there's things that like pile
It's
on each
building.
other.
Yeah.
Good art. It's just like it's a perfect book. I love it. I'm so glad Green Lantern is back in that regard.
And
It's
all
been
the
a
other
while.
lanterns are making appearances also, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you got more of that Guy Gardner backup story that ties into the House of Brainiac stuff. Yeah, this is my number 1 also. So let's next up, Action Comics is my number 2 and Mike's number 1. So
That was close for me. I'm liking the event.
Yeah.
I really am. This is, I'm happy that Superman is a solid series again, and it's got a good story going here. And I love that last cliffhanger with them being shrunken down. And then I don't know, man. I think maybe we're going to get close to the point of figuring out like why Brainiac is like either dying or whatever's going on with him. And then why does this Queen Brainiac exist as well? So yeah, there's a lot of little story elements going on in here besides, just Brainiac and Superman. And that's what I appreciate from the book.
Yeah, you got the whole super family involved with this. You got Lobo and that whole thing going on. So yeah, it's been really good so far. And then finally, Cat's number 1, your number 2, Dark Ride, issue 12.
It's over, man.
It's the last issue.
That's
I
it?
want to see how it
That's the
ends.
last
Yeah,
issue?
this is
Okay.
it. This is the last issue. So we see what the
Nice.
conclusion is. So I'm stoked for that. This is definitely. I mean, it was hard because like Green Lantern, I'm really excited for because I just love it. It's such a solid book. But then it's like, Dark Ride. It's last issue. I want to see how it concludes.
Sure.
Yeah, I am so curious where they're going to go with this book. And is this the end or is it going to be a volume 2? I almost can't see them wrapping this up in one issue.
Me
right?
either.
So,
yeah. I don't know how they do it. There's a lot up in the air. So I hope there's another volume. Also, Joshua Williamson seems very busy. So I don't know.
Yeah. And it just seems like as busier as he's gotten, these issues have taken longer and longer to come out.
This one in particular.
Yeah.
This one took a while. So I can understand why maybe there's going to be a little break. If not, this is just totally over. He is doing a lot of DC in particular because I don't know if he's really doing any other creator owned besides this. So he might just be totally focusing on DC.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was doing DC, but then he was also doing the Energon stuff too.
Right. He's doing G.I.
Yeah.
Joe, which also we don't know where that's leading because that book ends. So yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Dark Ride 11 came out in February. I didn't realize it came quite that long. Yeah.
But that's a series again that it almost doesn't matter because I remember what happens in the end. It's a series that kind of stays with you. So, which lucky, but yeah, it sucks that.
But it's taken quite a while for 12 issues to come out.
Yeah, it's been this series has been out for a long time. 12 issues is usually a year. This series has definitely been over 2 years.
I think so.
Yeah, they took a break in between like halves.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember that. But
so
I don't know. Because I dropped it like issue 4. But anyway.
We won't talk about that one. We know how Brant feels about darker and horror like comics. So
darker.
I'm glad you all stuck with it and you enjoyed it. Yeah.
More than stuck with it. Loved it.
Yeah.
We're dedicated.
Okay, loved it. I'm glad you're dedicated.
I'm sticking with Birds of Prey.
I was gonna say, just like you're dedicated to Birds of Prey. Have fun with that one. And just like we're all dedicated to the Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, of course.
We're sticking with it.
Through thick, thin, good, bad.
We're sticking with it.
Yeah.
When's Ultimate Spider-Man coming out?
Yeah.
And
that's it,
everything.
though. That's all. Yep.
All right, cool. So it looks like we're going to wrap this bad boy up for the night. So, guys, thank you once again for watching another episode of Comic Book Weekly. We
The
will be
nachos are
back.
done.
What's that?
The nachos are done. They've been
Yeah,
eaten.
she finished
so.
the nachos. We'll be back next week, and I guess we will do this announcement maybe in next week just to let people
Probably
know.
next week, so we could
Yeah.
concretely figure out what the day is for that.
Yeah, exactly. So we have some news that we're going to tell you guys shortly by next week. So, but until then, we'll leave you hanging. Have a great new comic book day. Make sure you subscribe to all our channels, Comic Book Corner 2.0, Only Good Comics, and Comic Uno. And of course, hit the bell, give it, thumbs up, follow us on the socials. And guys, we will see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful night.